Hi everyone, it's me Anna. Welcome to this video. Today let's talk about some popular booktok books that didn't meet my expectations. I read quite a few of those and some of them absolutely did meet my expectations and maybe even exceeded them, but some of those books of course didn't. So this video is about those books. They have been viral on booktok or even booktube for years in my algorithm. The first book I want to talk about is of course ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. A romantasy series, a very popular one. I think even if you're not a romantasy reader, you may have heard of this series. If you don't know what this is about, the first book in the series starts with our protagonist being a girl from poor family, and she's just hunting in the forest, trying to provide her household with some food. And as far as I remember, she kills a very particular animal in that forest. I guess that's a werewolf or something like that. Maybe not. To be honest, I don't really remember, but I remember that that character, he had a family or friends, something like that. One of his family or his friends comes for our protagonist, and he's like, if you want your family to be safe, come with me to my castle. And she of course agrees. I kind of like the beginning, to be honest. It was interesting for me to see our protagonist's life before she agreed to this offer, some kind of. And I think at the point when she got to the castle, the story just lost me. I was just really bored. I was waiting for something. There were some characters that were supposed to seem very mysterious and just probably keep you intrigued for the rest of the book. And maybe even for the rest of the series, I don't know. But they didn't seem that intriguing to me. I felt like literally nothing happened. We were just going out with that man who took us to his castle. We were just going out with him. We were just hanging out with everyone. We were also locked up, pretty much. Our main character couldn't go anywhere because it was dangerous for her. I didn't like this book at all. It seemed like an adult fairy tale. I felt so conflicted. Not that conflicted, like I knew that I wasn't enjoying it. Also, what happens in the end of the book seemed so fairy tale-like. I didn't like that because on one hand, it's an adult series, right? But on the other hand, it seemed like just like a fairy tale with a very predictable ending, with a very tired antagonist. That antagonist didn't seem scary at all. I DNF'd it, but then in a month or so, I picked it back up to finish it. I could have just let it go. I mean, I don't regret finishing it, but it didn't pay off in the end. And I was then thinking about continuing this series because I heard that actually a lot of ACOTAR fans didn't love the first book, but then the second book was just something so spectacular, so special. So I was considering getting into the next book for a while, but then I was just like, no, you know what? I don't want to waste my time reading the next book, and I also don't think I would have liked it anyway. The next book I want to talk about is Onyx Storm, the third book in the Empyrean series. This series about dragons bonding with dragons. Our protagonist enrolls in the War Academy at the beginning of the first book, and there she trains to become a dragon rider to one day go to the front line and help the army defend her city, her home, because they've been at a war with their enemies. What I like about this series is, well, first of all, the enemies themselves. I like the concept, the whole idea, okay, of why our enemies, our antagonists exist, what their life source is and all of that. So I kind of like the antagonists, and honestly, the antagonists are even more interesting than some of our main characters. I like the magic as well. I can recall it though right now because I read it a while ago and I can't really, I mean, no, I kind of do, wait, I kind of do remember. But anyway, the magic system of the series is not the point. Why Onyx Storm didn't meet my expectations is because I just thought it was really repetitive in terms of fighting scenes, in terms of battles. I've already said that on this channel. I think this series overall is just so repetitive in that way. We fight in every book for the same reasons all over again. Nothing gets resolved, nothing gets concluded. Also, the battle scenes are supposed to keep you on the edge of your seat, but I wasn't on the edge of my seat while reading literally every single battle scene in the series so far. I was just bored every time we were fighting someone. The same reasons again and again, the same battles, the same outcomes. Okay, I want to say in the third book, Onyx Storm, we travel a lot. That might seem like something good, right? But I wasn't quite invested in our journey. I didn't really care about the reason why we traveled to all those places. Every time we reached a destination, I wanted things to wrap up as quickly as possible, and that isn't a good sign. I liked the ending, I guess, another cliffhanger. Yeah, like every book in the series so far has ended on a cliffhanger. I think the third book explores the magic a lot, and I feel like in the next books we may get more magic, more powers, different kinds of abilities, probably also uncover some secrets about this magic. So yeah, I am still, well, kind of excited to continue the series. Not as excited as I was when I just finished the third book. And I was very excited to continue the series when I finished the book because of that massive cliffhanger. And yeah, I still do. I still want to. I just hope it stops being so repetitive. The next book on today's list is Enchantra, the second book in the Wicked Games trilogy. The third book isn't out yet, as far as I know. I've been actually looking forward to the third book, even though I didn't like Enchantra. I want to say that I loved Phantasma, the first book. This trilogy as a whole is just a very gothic, paranormal series with a trials trope, apparitions and ghosts, and some of our characters are apparitions, especially in the first book. In the first book, I wasn't the biggest fan of the trials themselves, but they were really fun. I just think I'm like generally not a fan of trials in books, but in Phantasma, the trials were really fun. They didn't seem unserious. They were pretty much high stakes. I want to say that I did feel slightly bored every time those trials began, every time our main protagonist had to participate in them, but I wasn't as bored as I thought I was going to be. That's definitely a good sign. Yeah, they definitely weren't my favorite part of that book, but I like them. I enjoy them. And then Enchantra. I remember going into this book after finishing a very emotionally heavy high fantasy, and I just needed something, just something lighter. It might have been just too simple a book after that high fantasy, but I think even if I read it at a different time, I might still not have liked it. We follow different characters in Enchantra from Phantasma, that protagonist's sister, those trials again, those tasks that our main character, yeah, the sister, had to complete. The trials from Phantasma, yeah, weren't like the best thing I read, but they were still entertaining. Whereas in Enchantra, all the tasks, yeah, all the trials, they weren't. I just wasn't entertained. I did like the ending though. The plot twist was good. The characters were fun, I guess. The trials are a very big aspect of this series. It's very important that you like these trials, otherwise these books might just not be for you. In Enchantra, I didn't like those trials and the romance, like just all the spy scenes, it seemed very out of place. Whereas in Phantasma, I didn't think it was too inappropriate, you know what I mean? The next one I want to talk about is Anxious People. I think Frederick Bachman, just overall as an author, has been popular lately. And of course, I've heard a lot about his other books too, like The Man Called Ove, sorry if I'm butchering his name. My Friends, The Bear Town, so many books, and so many people love those books. The premise of this book sounded the most interesting to me, really stood out to me, you know, among his other books. I thought I was gonna love it. Well, I didn't. I didn't hate this book either, but I didn't love it. We follow a character who is going to rob a bank. And then when they enter the bank, they find out that it's cashless. And then they just run into a random apartment house. And they walk into an apartment that a realtor is showing to their potential clients. And our main character, who was just going to rob a bank moments ago, decides to hold all these people hostage. When I was going into this book, I was pretty sure it'd be more of a thriller than a drama. And it was more of a drama than a thriller. I mean, it is a thriller in a way. There are some, you know, twists and turns. There are policemen involved. While this book is some sort of a thriller, it's also a drama. And the thing is, I wasn't invested in the drama at all. I wanted a fast-paced thriller. I just got a drama with some very, very annoying characters. I think that was on purpose, but it didn't seem funny to me. It just really annoyed me. At points, this book was funny, and I actually liked the beginning. But then when we started delving deeper into each of these characters' lives and backgrounds, relationships, and all of that, the story just fell apart. I annotated it though, and there are so many good quotes in my opinion, so I would like to reread these quotes. I just simply wasn't invested in the characters, and these characters play a very big role in this story, in this book. It's pretty much character driven actually, rather than plot driven. I mean, there is a plot, there is this investigation and everything, but it's also very, very character driven. Some scenes made me emotional, and I was like, yeah, this is very cute, this is so wholesome and stuff, but as a whole, I didn't love the book. The next one is a stage set for villains, a romantasy where the magic and the world building are based on theater and acting. There are these evil entities called the players. Our world is basically divided into two parts, south and north. The people living in one of the halves kind of worship these players. They visit this playhouse where the players live and where they put on performances. And the other half, the people living in the other half of our world, hate them. They are frightened, they're scared of them. So our main character was cursed by a player when she was a kid, and since that day she's been very sick. She's been feeling so ill. Her skin, her hair, just her condition overall has been really, really bad. One day the playhouse arrives in a city where they're welcome, and she just happens to see this playhouse with her own eyes, and this playhouse suddenly announces a casting for just normal people, normal citizens. So the citizens can enter the casting and compete with each other to become a player. Our main character doesn't want to become one of the players, of course, but she wants to investigate into this curse. She wants to find out why she was cursed. She wants to know how to cure herself. So she goes into this playhouse, enrolls in this competition, and everything goes downhill. The concept was great. I really liked a lot of things about this book. They were just very creative. The way this book is written is also very creative, and it's something that you don't normally encounter. I loved the main plot twist, but what I didn't like about this book is how repetitive it was. Second of all, it's a dark YA romantasy, and the writing at points it felt really like YA, like really YA, you know what I mean? Not upper YA. But like on the other hand, it's dark. That violence, you know, felt forced. Something like ACOTAR, an adult novel, but very like a fairy tale at the same time. I also thought this book could have been way shorter, and I really don't think it's that necessary to write a 500-page book about this. I spent so much time reading this, and I didn't like that. It wasn't fun. I liked the mysterious aspect of it, how the playhouse changes itself whenever something goes wrong, whenever something gets misplaced. I think the magic though, all this like acting stuff, I didn't think it was explained well enough. It was quite confusing. I didn't understand how a lot of things worked. So that's a stage set for villains. Our next book for today is Misery, where our protagonist gets into a car accident at the beginning, and then he's found by his biggest fan. She's obsessed with his books. Our main character is a writer. She offers him help. She offers him to stay in her house while he's recovering. And so he's like, well, of course, I don't have a choice. And basically almost the entire book is set in her house, not just in her house, in the bedroom where our protagonist spends a lot of time recovering. Then we find out that this woman, not only is she his biggest fan, she might also be a little bit crazy, or maybe not a little bit. I don't think I was scared for our character all the way through. I was just very sad about what was happening to him the entire book. Okay, I was just very sad. I was stressed. Yeah, I did feel stressed, but I was also waiting for something more meaningful to happen. I was waiting for some kind of a message, maybe, meaning behind it, and I didn't get that. I did like the ending. That ending was just really about him as a writer, and I liked how Stephen King tied that aspect, you know, our main character being a writer, his abilities as a writer, into the ending. It didn't make me feel the things I thought it would. It still made me feel a lot of emotions, and that is, I think, a good thing. I was hoping for more. I also didn't like the plot twist. It reminded me of Gerald's Game. I read Gerald's Game before Misery, and I loved Gerald's Game, one of my favorite Stephen King books, but in Misery, maybe it's because I read Gerald's Game before this one, and that's why in Misery it just felt like, oh, like again? Are we doing this again? It just didn't surprise me. It upset me. The last book I'm going to talk about today is Alchemised. The story begins with our main character waking up in a tube filled with water. So she wakes up, she doesn't know how she's gotten here. She remembers that she's at war, or was. This book is split into 3 parts. I thought the magic system was explained very poorly. I remember one particular scene at the beginning of the book in part 1 where we see this magic being used for the first time in a very confusing way. And I also remember thinking that I was supposed to understand that magic while reading that scene. I remember looking it up and being so disappointed after seeing some spoilers and no explanation of the magic. In part 2, we get that explanation. We can already understand how this magic works much better. The gap between those scenes is too big. By the time I got to the scene where everything was explained, I had forgotten what I read in that first scene. I was like, I'm getting an explanation now. I didn't know I would. Is it just because of the way it's written? I have no idea, but when I read that scene from part 1 for the first time, I felt like I, as the reader, was supposed to understand what was happening. Because I didn't, I thought like it was a problem. I thought I needed to look it up and stuff, and instead I just saw some spoilers that I wasn't supposed to see. Anyway, even after I got that explanation, I still couldn't understand some things about the magic system. I still don't really know why the book's called Alchemized. Like, yeah, the magic system's based on alchemy, but why the title is Alchemized? Is it about our main character? What do you mean she's alchemized? Like, what does that mean? I'm still a little bit confused, and I don't blame the author for that. I don't blame the book for that. It just might be me not fully understanding everything. Moving on to the next thing that I didn't love about this book. I think it's too long, and I took my time with this one. I didn't rush myself or anything, but I still thought it was a little bit too long. This book is over 1,000 pages long. Also, we spent quite some time with our secondary characters. I just didn't care about them. I wanted to. There were some scenes and just, some moments that I think were supposed to make me emotional, and they did make me emotional, I think, purely because I am just a very empathetic person. I've talked about this before, that, sometimes if a book makes me cry, it doesn't mean it's a good book. Okay, it doesn't mean it's written well. It's just because I'm empathetic. Seeing like the whole picture of someone's life, even if it's just one scene in a book, is sometimes enough for me to like tear up. When those moments passed, I was just like, oh well, fine. Okay, whatever, like what's next? I was a little bit detached. I still liked the story as a whole, I really did. The ending, not your happiest ending, but the best ending we could have gotten this story, I think. I overall liked the story, just didn't meet my expectations. That brings us to the end of this video. Let me know if you have any books that didn't meet your expectations, and I will see you in the next video.